banter bubbles on the hourly chart is starting to pop. Look at the altcoins go. There's a lot of them which are starting to move quite nicely at the moment. So on today's show, we're going to be covering the only altcoins which you should be focused on in the days and weeks to come. I'm also going to cover Bitcoin as well as its pivot levels, looking at Ethereum and whether Ethereum is going to start to move. We're going to move our stop losses up as well based off of the trades that we took earlier on this week. So without further ado, let's get straight into the show. And if you have a look over here at the RENKO chart as well, which we haven't shown for quite some time, you can see it had a notable tick up. It also confirms the third higher low. So you have your lows, higher low, and you now have a new higher high as well, that being your third higher high within this new trend which has just started to begin. But more importantly, RENKO is showing that Bitcoin is coming into again that resistance area which it struggled to get through for quite some time. The important thing that you want to focus on over here is that if you do look at this zone, there is free air over here, right? So if price can start to get back above that $32,000 level, this will be a very, very quick impulsive move towards the upside, which will take you to your next major resistance, that being around that $36,000 zone to fill this entire inefficiency. This was the quick sell-off that we had, which took place all the way back in May of 2022. So you would expect just as quickly as you came down, you'll probably slice through towards the upside. And this is being supported as well by the volatility and momentum within the market. If you look over here at the volatility indicator, which is on the bottom, you can see the pause that we've had in the market is being met by contraction on the volatility. If I zoom in over here and you look at that level, let's see, is it possible to get in there any closer? This line that's coming down over here, it's showing that it's just resetting and recontracting. Ultimately, you expect once you start to move up and you leave this lower band area, so like this, then that's going to lead to major expansion. And so far, we've started to clear the resistance. So if you can simultaneously coincide and see that price breaks above that key $32,000 level over here, whilst this starts to take off, then you can say with high probability, you're going to fill this entire inefficiency up to $36,000, which is also the measured move out of the cup and handle formation. That is our target one, right? The first target level that we've been looking at. And then next, if we look at the Gaussian channel, same thing. Also, we've broken and closed above the top side of the Gaussian channel, which is indicative that it's probably going to be onwards and upwards. But I do want to make it clear that onwards and upwards usually means that you have quite an extended move. And then at a later stage, you will eventually pull back into this Gaussian channel, which means following a big move up, you're going to have another big move down. So great trading opportunities. It creates a beautiful environment to compound your capital on these major swings within the market. Also, more importantly over here, if you do look at our moving averages, which is going to be the short and the long-term moving average, the 9 and the 18, which is the white and the yellow, you can see they are postured back up, angled upwards, and they have the short above the long-term, which is great. Next, if you look at the 4-day chart, same thing over here. I want to bring up Ethereum as well. But if you look at Bitcoin, consolidating around those highs following a big move is indicative that these moving averages will have a chance to start to catch up to price. And ultimately, you're looking for a break above that $30,500 level, which will take you to the $32,000 level. And if you can clear that zone, well, then it's looking good, right? Then you can start to target much higher. If you look at Ethereum is yet to get the same posturing that Bitcoin has, definitely lagging and needs to play catch up. You would need to see a big candle like this for Ethereum to play out in the same way that Bitcoin has. And in that instance, you'll see the spread between those moving averages. Again, the yellow above the green, above the purple, you want to see them increase with speed and magnitude towards the upside and spread away from each other. That starts to create a strong trending move, which we already, of course, have on Bitcoin. We want to see the green spread away from the purple as well. And then this move will get more powerful and the momentum will definitely be on the bull side. So what about if we look at the daily levels and the pivot zones? Now, this is very, very important to focus on because we came very, very close to taking out those pivot levels on both Bitcoin and ETH. And based on the slight sell-off that we had last night, or depending on where you are in the world, it was about 12 hours ago, you'd be looking to defend those wick lows, right? So if price were to come towards those wick lows again, I might start to get hesitant and say we're going to have a bit of a deeper pullback. And the thing is, when you have a big breakout like we've had on Bitcoin, you don't typically want to see this move retrace. that would become an incredibly bearish thing. You want to see a big move up like we've had, a little bit of a consolidation around here, and then very quickly by next week, you want to see this move already running back towards the upside and starting to rally aggressively once again, taking out those next major resistance zones at 32,000 and then potentially moving up towards that $35,000, $36,000 target. If you start to see a consolidation like this and it starts to come back down, so something like this, consolidate, 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 and you start to get below these levels, well, then you could start to be printed. You might start to print a Bart-Simpson pattern, which ultimately, of course, leads to full-on distribution back towards the downside. That would become bearish very, very quickly. So what are those pivot levels? And it looks the same on Ethereum. The pivot level on Bitcoin is 29,883. I wouldn't really want to see any candles come and close below that zone. That level needs to be heavily defended by the bulls. If you look at Ethereum over here, it came into our zone, which was outlined yesterday. This area over here, we're looking at the order block on the left-hand side to be filled as an entry on a long, and that did take place. You also have the 9 and the 18 EMA, which is the yellow and the pink one, crossing upwards and back testing that as a support level. So now that price is at that zone, your pivot level is coming in at 1850. That's 1,850 on Ethereum. And you typically do not want to see price come back below that wick that we made yesterday. I would definitely want to see that as the low, and I'd be moving my stop loss up towards that level, which I'll cover on the lower time frames to give you that exact trade in a bit. All right, let's look at Bitcoin over here. Bitcoin also with the moving averages. Where does the 50 come in? At the moment, the 50 EMA is currently rising with each and every 4-hour candle that prints. Today, it's situated at 29,500, so lining up pretty close to where those pivot levels are. That's going to be a support zone. On Ethereum, you're looking at Ethereum's 50 EMA as a back-tested area of support. So that came again into that buy zone. I'll just show that so it's nice and clear. We're looking for price to come into there. We drew this as a plan a couple of days ago. We've now hit that level. And again, you can see why it's important that you don't really want to come back below that level. If you do have the 200 EMA, which is coming in at 1,820. That will be an area of support. But if you start to fail that, well, everything will start to fall out of plan. And you would have to say that you're wrong on the long idea and you need to start to look or reevaluate to potentially look for lower prices. So that's Bitcoin and ETH. Now, what does it look like on our 1-hour chart with the risk to reward tool? You can see Bitcoin is definitely holding up a bit stronger. It's still holding above the previous month's high, which is coming in over here at 29.8. So that's not looking too bad, but you do have lower lows and lower highs forming on the 1-hour chart. And ultimately, I would say that I would probably move my stop up a little bit. I'd be looking to defend this level over here. So around that 29,187 or 29,190, that kind of region over there. I wouldn't want to see price come back below there. If it does, on the short-term trade ideas, probably stop out. Therefore, you could even move your stop into break even if you want. You shouldn't be losing anything on that trade. Okay, what about Ethereum? Well, Ethereum's not looking as great. You can see not moving as well. There is a potential that you have a power of 3 in play over here on the low time frame. Very quickly, reminder, what is the power of 3 trade? Well, essentially, it's where you have consolidation, and then you have a manipulation phase, which is that you break back into the range, consolidate a little bit more, and that leads to your expansion up, right? So there is a possibility that that could be at play. But in order to defend that, I would definitely move the stop as well over here on the risk to reward tool just below that wick. I wouldn't want to see price come below that wick again. Otherwise, I would be taken out of that position because you have lost the previous month's mid-range, which is coming in at $1,879. So very important that bulls get price back above that. If you can reclaim that previous month's mid-range, then ultimately you can say that Ethereum is deviating back into the range over there, and then you could potentially get that expansion above the previous month's high. That's going to be take profit 1 over here, previous month's high, which is coming in at 2020. I expect there's a high probability chance that you'll get a deviation back below that level, right? So that's why I definitely take TP over there, raise your stops into profit, and then if the rest wants to run and get above the major high time frame range high, which is coming in at 2,144, then great, that's free money over there. So that is essentially the trade idea. That's just mapping out what's been going on with Ethereum. Again, this is for the low time frame traders, those who are trading this on leverage. Remember, I outlined my plan with regards to my position, my spot positions on ETH, and I said that I'd be willing to hold this for a little bit longer. I'm going to personally be a bit more patient because I have made a lot of profit along the way this year, and I'm willing to give some of that profit up, simply for the reason that if you look over here at the weekly chart, usually if you see something like this, it leads to major expansion. Once again, even if you do have a bit of a pullback like that, ultimately I would expect that this week, if bulls do really have control, should finish this candle up strongly towards the upside. So I'm basically trying to hold on to those positions over there. Let's look at high block capital. Liquidation levels, you can see they are spread all over the place. Currently, you have an equal amount of liquidation levels above as what you have below, which is showing that the market is going through major indecision. This is normal following a big move like this. Usually after you get a big move, right, the market wants to digest which way it should go next. And ultimately that leads to that liquidity trapped on both the upside and the downside. So closest liquidity on Bitcoin is at 30,800, and then on the downside at 29,875. And then let's have a look at ETH as well. Whilst that loads, we'll go onto this chart over here, which is showing, of course, the delta, the liquidation deltas over here. You can see flat, right? A lot of guys have deleveraged within the market at the moment. So it was heavily positive as price started to grind down. Those guys started to close out. Short started to build positions, but it's nothing that notable over here. I also do want to look at ETH. ETH, if I'm not mistaken, went pretty negative over there. Okay, let's look at ETH's liquidation levels. Zooming in. So if you look on the top side, ETH has liquidity there at that $1,890 zone. So possible that you get a push up through there. I'm obviously targeting a lot higher. And then on the lower end, you're sitting at 1844 is the lower end liquidity. So let's look over here at the liquidation delta. You can see very negative. So guys are jumping in to short this market, at least on the ETH pair. They're starting to try and short that market. That could present the opportunity for that squeeze up. If you look on the right-hand side, he has the 25x shorters situated at that $1,920 level. And then above that, if you push into my target area around 2,000, you have a lot of short traders that have jumped in there as well. Okay, guys, what I will be doing tomorrow as well is I will be funding an account. Here you go, an OKX account to run a trading bot. So I'm going to be doing a manual bot, just a grid strategy. If you do want to follow along with that, check it out. There is a link in the description below. You can get up to $30,000 in sign-up bonuses. Just click the link in the description below on OKX. Make sure that you sign up and then fund the account. I will be running that tomorrow. I'm thinking around potentially a $10,000 bot is what I'm looking at. Cool. Let's go on to the S&P 500 before we move on to the altcoins and the Bitcoin dominance. So if you look over here at the S&P 500, again, we were coming into main resistance levels over here, which is situated between 4,500 and that $4,600 zone. I said expect that will provide a bit of a pullback. The question is, do we turn before? Do we turn into this level, or do we deviate above and then come down? So you can see the stock market is still working its way back down. It turned before, and ultimately I'm looking towards this yellow line, 4,325. That's the breakout level from the range, right? So this has been a long-term range. First, we were obviously grinding down, lower highs and lower lows, and then we identified that mostly this is range bound. So the question is this going to be a deviation back into the range, or are we back testing the top side of the range for continuation back up on the stock market? So that's what we're looking at over there. Of course, the stock market and Bitcoin have not been that correlated for the past couple of months, but recently they just started to break back towards each other, diverging and recorrelating once again. So it might be something worth looking at in the medium time frame on the stock market at least. Okay, Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance continues to soar. You can see again, also breaking out of a major range, right? This is a long-term range that we've held since all the way back in May of 2021. When you break out of a high time frame range like this, you know it's going to be pretty significant, right? So if you held this level for so long and you had a convincing breakout, which we have, you know that's going to be a significant level, which could ultimately even lead towards the 60% dominance on the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is a big move. On the lower time frame, the breakout was based off of a bull flag. There's your pole, consolidated, and broke out. The measured move off that is up to 54% before we might start to see a bit of a pause or pullback, right? So as a percentage, you're looking at about another 5% move. Now, I've been looking at some of the altcoins independently against Bitcoin, and that's kind of what I wanted to cover for you guys today. We'll get to that level in a bit. What I wanted to outline, let's quickly, before we go into that tweet over there, is also in the very short term, I am currently playing this 𝗬𝗍𝗔 chart, looking for maybe about a 7% bounce against Bitcoin. And that is based on the ETH trade, right? Once we get this push up over here, or if we get this push up over here, I'll be loading off that ETH into Bitcoin again, expecting continuation down towards the 0.0557 level, which lines up with the Bitcoin dominance probably reaching higher targets around that 55 to 60% zone. So do be cognizant of that, because if you are playing the altcoin market and you're holding or you're trying to build hodl positions, just know that against Bitcoin, it is going to bleed. And I'm going to show you the altcoins that do look strong against Bitcoin for the time being. So again, quickly on 𝗬𝗍𝗔, you do have the stochastic RSI. It has crossed up, starting to move towards the upside, but momentum really needs to kick in very, very quickly. Looking at this as a deviation, potentially another deviation back into the range. If 𝗬𝗍𝗔 cannot get back into this range, which is also the quarterly level of the broader range at that 0.06243 zone, then you'll need to cut this position, right? So if you see something like this and it just can't get acceptance above there, then what is this position over here? The flags have been working phenomenally, right? The bull flags and bear flags, that's your pole, strong move down. Consolidation and failure to break back above and into that range over there would start to look like a bear flag, which again, measured move comes down into this zone over here. So it all lines up, right? It all lines up with what we're looking at. So I'm going to zoom out just to give you a bit more perspective. This is your broader range, right, for ETH. Let's grab our highlighter tool. So you got the long-term down-sloping trend line over there. That's been your resistance. You have your range high at the top, range low over here. Your mid-range is coming in this region over here. This is your quarterly level, which we've recently just lost. That's your 25% level within the range. So it's very important that bulls, at least within the altcoin market and ETH, get priced back above that 0.25 level. Failure to do that will lead to much lower prices on the 𝗬𝗍𝗔 chart. So Ethereum will lose value against Bitcoin. Okay, let's go on to this chart now. Let's go on to this one over here. Let's go into total. So I wanted to focus a little bit on total too. Now, I'm sure you can all agree total 2 is within a range, right? It's been holding this range also since May of 2022. It's simply just been range bound. We're now being capped by the mid-range level at 565 billion. So price needs to get back above that level very, very soon, more specifically above this order block zone, which led to the breakdown. If you can see this level broken towards the upside, maybe altcoins have a bit of a chance. So this might not be the show that you're hoping for it to be, because following my objective analysis and having a look at multiple different altcoins this morning, as well as the total market cap, it looks really, really difficult for alts to run aggressively against Bitcoin. It can happen in the short term, and there, of course, will always be outlying coins that will do phenomenally well. But over the medium time frame to the long term, it looks very, very difficult. And I'm going to show you why in a moment. First, let's look at some of these coins, right? So here's the coins. Over time, over the course of this year, altcoins have just been downtrending, right? Of course, there's a lot of lines over here, but if you took each one independently, even if it had a big spike up, it ultimately just starts to trend back down towards zero against Bitcoin. And we did a show on that already. We already covered that. So why am I telling you this? Well, if you look at some of these coins, which have been considered strong, These are the ones according to CoinGecko. If you look at the last 30 days, the last 7 days, and the last 24 hours, these have been the best performing ones. So Injective Protocol is one of them. This is probably the best looking of the lot. Now, this is what the chart looks like essentially. We are range bound, right? But we are also holding an uptrend at the same time. So we have our simple trend line over there. You can see the trend against Bitcoin for Injective Protocol has mostly been up, grinding upwards and onwards. So watch this level. It's worth playing as long as Injective doesn't go below this zone. So if you are playing altcoins, again, the reason I'm outlining this to you is make sure you're choosing the strong ones. Make sure you're choosing coins that are strong against both BTC and ETH. Because really at this point in the market, you still mostly want to be focused on the big players, which is Bitcoin and ETH. So as long as it holds above this zone over here, it would be looking good. That gives you I'm just going to read the last numbers as a Satoshi value is 2056. As long as it's above 2056, Injective can continue to grind upwards. Okay, let's go to Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin Cash has, of course, done phenomenally well, right? Bitcoin Cash has been absolutely rallying. But when you zoom out, this is what you start to see. So this is what happens to a lot of the coins, guys. When you zoom out, do you realize how bad that is, right? So it's literally just lost value against Bitcoin over time. And I'm only telling you this because obviously don't want you guys to lose money. This is a lesson that I wish that I'd learned from day one when I got into crypto. Had I known, just focus 90% of your capital on Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone, I probably would have been at least 10 times richer than I am right now. So what are you looking at over here? You got your major resistance levels overhead. This is your weekly chart. Yes, you've had a big move up over here, but expect that you're going to hit resistance. Once you hit that resistance, my expectation would be this for Bitcoin Cash. I'm being honest with you over here. I expect it would just be a slow bleed out, and over time, it will eventually take out these lows. That's my expectation. But if I'm wrong, then you would expect the push up into this region, the resistance, to start to turn and come down. Now, it's not all terrible, right? So because it depends on your perspective within the market, what paradigm you're looking at the market from. This could also be viewed as an incredible opportunity. What's the opportunity? Well, the opportunity is simple. If we're approaching this resistance, you don't always have to think with an up-only mindset. What about thinking with a down mindset? Meaning that when it gets into this zone over here, the major resistance, since it's probably going to bleed out, it could be a great short opportunity, especially after it's had a massive pump like that. So that's Bitcoin Cash. And I really do apologize to anybody holding Bitcoin Cash. I'm not here to ruin your day. I'm just trying to give the facts over here. And if we look at the daily chart over there, that's what it looks like, right? Yes, it has been a big break of structure, massive move towards the upside. And then let's go down. Let's go on to, I think I did on the 12-hour time frame. So a little bit of a low time frame. I said that would be, it's your over line, right? And you can obviously move this line up as price starts to mature within this move. So you got your simple trend line. This was the consolidation after the first big move, which led to the breakout. So you kind of want to have your stops placed over there if you're in a long position. Against Bitcoin, that means that you're going to be at, again, 0.005733240. You can take a screenshot of that and read that number out. That's against your Bitcoin pairing. So a push up into this major resistance zone might lead me. So if you see something like this, that might mean that now you can start to readjust this and move this a little bit higher below that last expansive move. So you can track it on upwards if you are in a long position against Bitcoin. It's doing great for now, but in the long run, I don't think it will. Let's go to the next one, Arbitrum. So here's Arbitrum. Okay, Arbitrum simply also within a range, right? You have your range high, you have your range low, you have your mid-range, and what is this? This is a strong downtrend, right? So you have your highs, you came straight down, made a lower low, lower high, another lower low, and now you're starting to bounce. So understand, the point of this is that you understand that if you are playing these coins, that's all good and well. Just don't become a bag holder. You're playing the next lower high, right? The next lower high could still be a huge move against Bitcoin. You could potentially push up to there. On Arbitrum, let's assume once you broke back into the range, you took that trade. What is that? Against Bitcoin, that's 20%. And then you expect the next lower high to get set, and obviously that trend to continue down. If you're already in Arbitrum and you want to mark this level off, then this is the zone that I'm looking at. I'll go on the 4-hour time frame. Okay, if you break back below the range over there, that's where you're wrong. Come back under that range and start to close there. Same thing, right? You had a big move, a bit of a consolidation with another major move. You don't want to see price come back below where that move started to take off. If you get back below there, you're going to be losing money against Bitcoin. Okay, what about 𝗕𝗓? 𝗕𝗓 also had quite a rally yesterday. Look at that. It's already almost vomited up all of its gains. This is the level. It has been range bound. Let's go on the daily. Okay, let's go on the weekly actually because there's more history over here. All right, there it is. I didn't even mark off the top levels because they're not even relevant. These are your main zones that you're operating within. This is your main range for the time being. It's going to be range high, range low, mid-range. You can see the resistance over there, bounced off there, lost that level, retested, back-tested that as resistance, and then started to expand towards the downside. That is against Bitcoin. So let's go on the daily. And ultimately, this is what you can see. Yes, you had a bit of a big move up over here, simple trend line in play. If you get back underneath the bottom of the range, which the number ends in 4552, again, 4552. If you get back under there, bearish, right? You expect continuation. And I think more than likely that is probably going to be the case. It is probably going to be continuation. Where do you start to get majorly bullish on this? Well, if you break the daily structure, which is still quite far away, right? So you need to get above this level over here. That is a break on the daily time frame against Bitcoin. And you would expect something like that, right? Only once you get above there, back test, now you can start to consider getting long. So you can see for a lot of the altcoins, I'm being very honest with you guys, it's a long time away. And I looked at something which is even scarier. I'm going to bring it up for you now. Let's just do these last two. Okay, the other one that was doing well is XRD. I don't know if that is XRP's cousin or stepbrother, but it's XRD, which is stuck in a range. It's not a very clean chart. Probably wouldn't even trade this. It's just kind of maybe if you pick up a small position at the bottom of this range over here and you short sell it at the top, that could potentially work out. Just trade it at the extremities, but it has been respecting that range for quite some time. Okay, CFX. Let's go to CFX. Let me just get that off. Okay, here's CFX. So CFX was straight down, had a little bit of a rounded bottom accumulation phase of here, and then a big spike up. It's broken back into the range. Ultimately, if this is going to change trend, you expect that price should not come back below the bottom of the range, meaning into this yellow box area. But as you can see, lower highs and lower lows, more than likely, any bounce that takes place into here is probably going to get rejected. And I do anticipate it's going to come into that zone. And guys, I marked off the coins that did the best against Bitcoin in the past 30 days. The only one that I couldn't get because there's no pairing for it that on TradingView, which I know has done very well, is 𝗏𝗃. 𝗏𝗃 has outperformed Bitcoin quite significantly for the past 30 days, but I can't find a pairing chart to show you what that looks like. So what does this all mean? Well, you need to understand the timing cycles, right? So if you remember, I did a tweet all the way back in November. Here it is, a thread on why I and now and Bear believe that we are approaching maximum opportunity and how I plan on buying at or near the bottom, all whilst practicing solid risk management. I think it's pinned on the top of my Twitter. You're welcome to go look at that tweet over there. But the point over here, what I wanted to show you is as you approach the green line, which is the halving date, right, where the mining reward halves. So Bitcoin miners get half for the same or more amount of work. Once that gets hit, right, price usually starts to run from that level. It runs quite aggressively. That's where you start your parabolic run. And now you can anticipate also based on the prior cycles when the market may top. Now, my best guess is it's going to be between May of 2025 and November of 2025. November, December, January seem to be the most profitable months for Bitcoin historically over the years, right? So that's probably where it's going to top, which based on from the halving cycle is 52 weeks out is the first date, so about a year. The second date, if you look to November, it's going to be about 80 weeks out. Now, the reason why this is important is if you bring up the total market cap, which I just showed you is coming into the mid-range, right? But let's zoom out. Now, when I zoom out, and I look at the previous cycles, let's just quickly move that up, get the pen off. when you look at the previous cycles, this is what I noticed. So this is total 2, right? Total 2, which is Ethereum and all the other altcoins. You can see this is where altcoins really start to rally aggressively. So what I did is I took the ultimate top of the market and I pulled a time count across to measure more or less from where the market started to take off, right? So if we zoom in, I'm sure you can all say, right, it's been pretty flat over here. Nothing has happened over here. Dead. Market's flatline. Nothing is going on. The market really starts to take off over here. This is where people's attention will be caught within the market. So I marked off how long from the major top backwards, going back in time, to when the market actually started to take off. Because if we use this information, we can potentially gauge how long it may be before altcoins actually start to rally. And you'll see it was 233 days before the major market cycle top. So remember, major market cycle top, based on the tweet over here, anywhere within that region, and you go back 233 days, that's where the market starts to get heated on the altcoins and they start to run. So let's go to the next cycle. And then I'll show you where we're at currently or how long this could potentially take. The next cycle over here, we go to the major market top. Now, it took 2 counts because we kind of had a bit of an artificial second top, right? This should have been the market cycle top due to a lot of leverage within the market. May, June was not the top. Instead, we pushed up into November, and that ended up being the top. So depending on which one you take, you go from where the market started to get heated, which was in about September of 2020. So you go back from the first top. That is going to be 252 days, right? So if you look at this one, 233, 252, top to the start. Okay. If you go from the second peak, then you're looking at 435 days from when the market started. So let's say, give or take, it's between around about 300 days. Let's give it around about 300 days. So if the market cycle is going to top out in November of 2025, then you can expect this is going to be your flatline phase, right? This phase over here, let's highlight it. This phase over here, and this phase, which you can't even see. I'll have to zoom in to show you that. Let's just quickly do that again. And this phase over here is your flatline phase. If I go really zoomed in, maybe you can see it nicely now. There you go. You see that part over there? There's a potential that we're kind of within that phase, right? So let's go back now to where we are. That could end up being this. If you kind of zoom out like that, I know when it looks all crazy now when we look at the market, but ultimately the market might just range and kind of be flat like this for a long time. So getting to the point of the story over here, we say the market potential is going to top over there, which is going to be in, that one's too far, sorry, this line over here. So November of 2025, and now let's take that back 255 bars for 255 days. You can see we are very far way away, right? Let's grab a vertical line. That means it would be over here, and we're currently over here. Long way away, long accumulation phase, which could still be at play before these altcoins start to run. So I'm telling you this because I don't want you to put too much money into altcoins and get absolutely wrecked. Consider the realities over here of how long this could potentially take. Let's take it out a bit further and say, well, what happens if the run starts around 300 days, right? Because we had that outlier. Well, let's say 300 days, or let's say 365 to make it exactly 1 year before the potential top. Well, it's not that different, right? Then now you're looking at about December of 2024 might only be where you start to see these altcoins seriously reaccumulate and pick up steam towards the upside. But what if we go with the conservative time frame? So I said over here that anywhere within this vicinity is where the market cycle tops. Let's say the market cycle is going to top by the 12th of May 2025. And if you want to get an understanding of how I came up with these numbers, go through to the tweet thread. Everything is in there. It's a long thread. I explained the whole story. It's all there. Okay, let's go back. So we're saying May of 2025. So let's start it over there. May of 2025. So we go back. And here's May of 2025. And then let's go with our 255 bars. There's the 255 bars. That means alt season begins over here. September 2024. Let's be really generous and say we're going with the outlier of 365 days, which is 1 year out. 365, there we go. Then you're looking at the very conservative best case scenario, May of 2024, which means, unfortunately, one more year, guys, potentially. One more year. Let me know in the comments what you think. There is a possibility that that's really what you see, and then you slowly, right, start to grind up, and then you move into the next major expansive phase. So the pump is going to be epic. As Chaos says, the pump will be epic. Your patience will be tested. And this is why I would mainly focus on Bitcoin and ETH for the time being. Please make sure you smash the like button as well. I forgot to ask you guys that massive favor. If this message helps you and hits home and might save you some money, please smash the like button over here. And then I see Mark says DCA portfolio is mandatory. I agree, 100%. This is where the money is made, in the DCA portfolio. When you dollar cost average through this zone over here, you can make a whole lot of money. And you need to dollar cost average very, very slowly. In the tweet thread over here, I also go into deep details of how I plan on allocating. Here you go on the top. 25% will be dollar cost average over an 18-month period. Okay. So 25% DCA'd over an 18-month period, and that's to capitalize on this entire zone, and then ultimately you go into the run. Okay, so let's see. I overlaid this with ETH. I found the same thing, by the way, more or less the same thing. ETH started to rally about 308 days before the peak is when it really started to take off, and then before the peak on the next run was about 378 days. Hence, if I am going to trade an altcoin, I'm going to stick with ETH for the time being, because that's where most of the capital will rotate into, call it the blue chip safe ones, right? Bitcoin, ETH, couple of the other major large caps. So guys, smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. If you do appreciate the alpha, the least you can do is just tap that like button. Just tap it. Tap it a couple of times over there. And I will see you all on the next show tomorrow. Check out OKX, fund your account if you do want to participate in the grid trading strategy, which I'm going to set up tomorrow. Have an absolutely stellar day. I wish you all well. I appreciate all of you. And that's it from me. Cheers for now.